Thank you. Assalamualaikum and a very good evening to everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the i-LEdHS 2026 parallel session. My name is Dr. Hanis Kamarudin and I will be your moderator for this session in room 4 with the theme of governance, policy and development. Before we begin, I would like to kindly remind all participants to keep your cameras on throughout the session and later complete the attendance form provided, in the chat box. We would like to inform you that any videos exceeding 20 minutes time limit have been minimized. For your information, each presentation will be followed by a questions and answer session, our QA session, with approximately 5 minutes allowed for discussion. Let us begin our session. Okay, so we will now proceed with the presentation for paper ID CHS10. The presenter's name is Nur Farah Aisyah binti Nur Saidi, Miss Nur Farah Aisyah. The paper is entitled Mekanisme Pembiayaan Kreatif dan Potensinya dalam Pemilikan Rumah Mampu Milik. Okay, so kindly pay attention to the presentation video. Please welcome.
Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera semua. Saya Nur Farah Aisyah binti Nur Saidi akan membentangkan kajian bertajuk mengenai mekanisme pembiayaan kreatif dan potensi pemilikan rumah mampu milik. Latar belakang kajian ini menerangkan bahawa rumah adalah keperluan asas yang memainkan peranan penting dalam kehidupan manusia. Memandangkan ia berkait rapat dengan kesejahteraan hidup dan kestabilan sosial. Laporan JPPH menjelaskan bahawa kenaikan harga kediaman berlaku secara konsisten tanpa diimbangi oleh peningkatan pendapatan isi rumah. Oleh itu, Kementerian Perumahan dan Kerajaan Tempatan telah memperkenalkan dasar perumahan negara. Ia memberikan penekanan terhadap aspek kemampuan pemilikan rumah seseorang individu. Kerajaan dan institusi kewangan juga telah mewujudkan pembiayaan perumahan yang lebih fleksibel bagi menangani isu kelulusan pembiayaan. Dalam konteks ini, kewujudan pembiayaan kreatif menjadi semakin relevan sebagai mekanisme alternatif kepada sistem pembiayaan perumahan konvensional. Terdapat penggunaan istilah pembiayaan yang berbeza di Malaysia tetapi membawa ciri dan matlamat yang selari dengan pembiayaan yang ditawarkan dalam literatur terdahulu. Menurut Nichols tahun 1975, ia menerangkan bahawa pembiayaan kreatif merujuk kepada satu strategi pembiayaan yang memberi penekanan kepada penyelesaian struktur pembiayaan dan muncul sebagai tindak balas kepada kegagalan sistem pembiayaan konvensional. Walau bagaimanapun, wujudnya persoalan sejauh mana keberkesanan skim pembiayaan kreatif yang diperkenalkan terhadap pemilikan rumah. Terdapat kajian-kajian terdahulu yang lebih menumpukan kepada aspek kesedaran dan ada juga yang menilai keberkesanan. Sebagai contoh, kajian oleh Nordiana tahun 2016 telah dijalankan dalam menilai keberkesanan skim sewa perumahan atas faktor-faktor yang mempengaruhi kesedaran terhadap pembiayaan Islamik yang meliputi faktor pengetahuan, pengaruh sosial, agama dan persepsi. Oleh itu, jurang kajian terbentuk apabila kajian ini meroka perspektif berbeza berkaitan pembiayaan perumahan berbanding kajian lepas. Justru itu, terdapat keperluan untuk menilai keberkesanan pembiayaan kreatif secara menyeluruh dengan mengambil kira faktor-faktor yang relevan. Kajian ini dibangunkan dengan mengadaptasi kerangka konseptual daripada kajian-kajian terdahulu dan bertujuan untuk mengisi jurang pengetahuan dalam literatur perumahan mampu milik di Malaysia. Salah satu kekangan utama dalam pemilikan rumah mampu milik ialah komitmen kos sara hidup yang semakin meningkat. Ia menyukakan golongan sasaran untuk menabung secara konsisten. Oleh disebabkan itu, kajian Muhammad Tarmimi Cik Ani tahun 2022 mendapati bahawa pembeli tidak boleh menyediakan bayaran deposit rumah yang lazimnya sekitar 10% daripada harga jual beli rumah sebagai syarat awal pemilikan. Selain itu, Muhammad Syarul Muhammad Yusof dan rakan menyatakan bahawa cabaran lain adalah kesukaran pembeli untuk mendapatkan kelulusan pembiayaan daripada pihak bank atau institusi kewangan. Kerana mereka tidak mempunyai dokumentasi pendapatan yang formal seperti slip gaji yang menjadi halangan besar dalam proses kelulusan pembiayaan perumahan. Pihak kerajaan dan institusi kewangan telah memperkenalkan pelbagai skim pembiayaan yang lebih fleksibel bagi memberi peluang kepada golongan B40 dan M40 termasuk individu dalam sektor tidak formal seperti pekerja gig, petani atau bekerja sendiri untuk mengakses pembiayaan perumahan. Ini membawa persoalan sejauh manakah keberkesanan pembiayaan kreatif yang telah diperkenalkan melalui beberapa faktor yang relevan. Sebagai contoh, kajian i-LEdHS dan rakan-rakannya tahun 2019 mendapati bahawa kurangnya pengetahuan mengenai pembiayaan perumahan. Kajian Shattish pada Chandu dan rakan-rakannya tahun 2023 menyatakan bahawa pengetahuan dalam pembiayaan hartanah merupakan aspek penting dalam membuat keputusan pemilikan rumah. Berikan berita bernama tahun 2024, pihak kerajaan dan agensi perlu mempergiatkan lagi usaha promosi agar golongan muda dapat memperolehi maklumat yang jelas dan menyeluruh terhadap skim perumahan. Petikan Nurul Fazira Khairul Adli tahun 2022 mendapati bahawa terdapat kelemahan melalui promosi penyampaian maklumat yang mengelirukan terhadap skim Fund My Home yang akan memberi kesan kepada masyarakat terhadap pembiayaan perumahan. Objektif kajian ada dua. Yang pertama, mengenal pasti mekanisme pelaksanaan skim pembiayaan kreatif dalam pasaran perumahan. Yang kedua, menghuraikan faktor-faktor yang mempengaruhi pembiayaan kreatif dan potensinya terhadap pemilikan rumah mampu milik. Saya ingin mengupas beberapa perkara dalam kajian literatur. Rumah mampu milik merupakan kediaman yang ditawarkan pada harga yang munasabah kepada golongan B40 dan M40 yang mensasarkan isi rumah yang berpendapatan menengah atau median dengan harga maksimum RM300,000. Jabatan Perumahan Negara menyatakan bahawa harga rumah mampu milik bersifat tidak seragam bergantung kepada lokaliti. Seterusnya, kajian Faril Hazan Ahmad Osman tahun 2019 mendefinisikan pembiayaan perumahan sebagai satu bentuk kontrak kewangan antara peminjam dan institusi perbankan. Ia menyediakan dana bagi membeli rumah serta jadikan cagaran untuk menjamin pembayaran balik pinjaman seseorang. Pinjaman akan terikat sepenuhnya dengan jadual bayaran dan perlu melepasi syarat-syarat seperti mempunyai pendapatan tetap, rekod kredit yang baik dan memenuhi nisbah khidmat hutang serta garis panduan bank. Menurut G.G.C. Sirman dan rakannya tahun 1987 memberikan penekanan bahawa mekanisme pembiayaan kreatif mencirikan fleksibiliti yang tinggi dari segi keupayaan menyesuaikan bayaran pinjaman mengikut tahap pendapatan individu. Menurut Kenneth T. Rawson 1982, pula menyifatkan pembiayaan kreatif sebagai mekanisme baharu dalam pasaran perumahan yang membolehkan urus niaga dapat dilaksanakan walaupun peminjam gagal memperolehi pembiayaan komersial. Ia antara lain melibatkan beberapa pendekatan baru yang lebih fleksibel, antaranya ialah pembiayaan 100% tanpa deposit, kelonggaran syarat dan keperluan dokumen yang lebih longgar di mana tumpuan ini diberikan kepada individu yang bekerja gig, bekerja sendiri atau bekerja tidak formal. Pelaksanaan pembiayaan kreatif dalam sektor perumahan di luar negara telah diperkenalkan di beberapa negara maju seperti Australia, United Kingdom dan Amerika Syarikat sebagai tindak balas terhadap isu kemampuan pemilikan rumah. Ia khususnya dijalankan kepada kalangan pembeli rumah pertama dan golongan berpendapatan sederhana. Saya mengambil contoh Amerika Syarikat. Di Bandar Los Angeles, pendekatan pembiayaan kreatif dilaksanakan melalui kerjasama antara sektor awam dan swasta dengan menggunakan pelbagai sumber pembiayaan. Ia melibatkan gabungan dana, kerajaan, pelaburan swasta, subsidi dan pinjaman institusi kewangan yang menawarkan pinjaman dengan syarat, fleksibel dan meningkatkan pemilikan rumah bagi golongan berpendapatan rendah. Konsep asal pembiayaan kreatif telah lama wujud melalui penggunaan istilah Malaysia walaupun berbeza. Penggunaan istilah ini diwujudkan bagi memudahkan pemahaman orang awam, penyidik dan pembuat dasar terhadap skim pembiayaan yang lebih fleksibel. Dengan mengumpulkan semua skim pembiayaan kerajaan di bawah istilah pembiayaan kreatif, ia membantu menjelaskan bahawa skim-skim tersebut berkongsi tujuan dan falsafah yang sama untuk memperluaskan lagi akses pemilikan rumah melalui pendekatan yang bersesuaian dengan tahap pendapatan pembeli. Di samping itu, penggunaan istilah ini memudahkan kerajaan untuk merangka, melaksana dan menilai dasar perumahan secara lebih tersusun dan menyeluruh. Keadaan ini secara tidak langsung dapat meningkatkan tahap keberkesanan pembiayaan terhadap seseorang individu melalui capaian yang lebih mudah diakses. Sebagai contoh, jenis-jenis pembiayaan kreatif seperti skim sewa beli (RTO) yang berkonsepkan pemilikan merasakan sewaan dalam tempoh tertentu di mana pembeli akan mendapat pemilikan rumah setelah mematuhi tempoh sewaan yang ditetapkan sebagaimana yang pernah dilaksanakan melalui perumahan PPR. Skim jaminan kredit perumahan mensasarkan pembeli rumah pertama dengan menawarkan pembiayaan sehingga 100% kepada had maksimum pembiayaan sehingga RM500,000. HDKP Madani juga mensasarkan pembeli rumah pertama dengan menawarkan pembiayaan sehingga 120% termasuk kos perabot, yuran guamam dan kos ubah suai dengan had maksimum pembiayaan sehingga RM360,000. Potensi pembiayaan kreatif pula menurut Hendra Hiwarno tahun 2024 menyatakan pembeli rumah tidak perlu menyediakan wang pendahuluan dan memenuhi syarat permohonan yang ketat. Melalui pembiayaan kreatif juga, ia dapat mengurangkan risiko kegagalan bayaran ansuran kepada institusi kewangan di samping boleh merancang perbelanjaan bulanan tanpa menangguhkan ansuran bulanan yang tinggi. Justru itu, pembiayaan kreatif berpotensi untuk memberikan tumpuan agar dapat diperluaskan dalam membawa impak positif kepada pemilikan rumah mampu milik menerusi kaedah pembiayaan yang lebih fleksibel. Keberkesanan pembiayaan kreatif dipengaruhi oleh 4 faktor. Faktor yang pertama adalah pengetahuan. Kajian Ananda Munasami dan rakan-rakan pada tahun 2022 mendapati golongan B40 masih memiliki pengetahuan yang rendah dalam perihal kewangan dan tidak mempunyai wang simpanan yang mencukupi. Hubungan yang signifikan ini akan mempengaruhi individu dalam membuat keputusan pembelian rumah dan pengurusan dalam perancangan kewangan jangka panjang. Selain itu, kajian Nur Fitra tahun 2019 menyatakan tahap kesedaran pengguna terhadap pembiayaan perumahan Islam dipengaruhi oleh beberapa faktor. Sebagai contoh, jika seseorang kurangnya maklumat atau kurang kefahaman akan menyebabkan wujudnya salah tanggapan bahawa sesuatu pembiayaan itu merumitkan dan tidak kompetitif. Di samping itu, faktor yang terlibat adalah penyampaian maklumat. Kajian Syifa Rishila Inka tahun 2023 menjelaskan bagaimana persepsi terhadap penyampaian maklumat akan memberi kesan kepada keputusan pengguna dalam memilih pembiayaan perbankan Islam. Sebagai contoh, apabila maklumat disampaikan secara tidak jelas dan menyeluruh, pengguna tidak akan memahami dan memanfaatkan struktur pembiayaan yang ditawarkan. Faktor seterusnya adalah pengaruh sosial dengan merujuk kepada kajian yang dijalankan oleh Amir Azhar Abdul Jamal dan rakan-rakannya. Menyatakan bagaimana pengaruh sosial boleh membentuk tingkah laku dan keputusan kewangan bagi kalangan pelajar institusi pengajian tinggi di Kota Kinabalu. Oleh itu, peranan pengaruh sosial dapat dilihat relevan apabila nasihat daripada ibu bapa dan rakan-rakan yang pengalaman akan mencorakkan tingkah laku untuk memilih sesuatu produk pembiayaan perumahan. Kesimpulannya, kajian ini mengisi jurang dalam literatur tempatan dalam menilai keberkesanan pembiayaan kreatif secara lebih menyeluruh. Dengan menghubungkan faktor pengetahuan, kesedaran, penyampaian maklumat dan pengaruh sosial sebagai pemboleh ubah yang mempengaruhi keberkesanan pembiayaan kreatif. Kajian ini menyediakan satu kerangka yang lebih komprehensif dalam memahami dinamik pemilikan rumah mampu milik di Malaysia. Selain itu, dapatan kajian ini juga berpotensi untuk dijadikan rujukan yang bermanfaat dan signifikan kepada pihak berkepentingan dalam usaha menambah baik pelaksanaan pembiayaan perumahan pada masa hadapan. Secara keseluruhannya, pembiayaan kreatif berpotensi meningkatkan akses pemilikan rumah dalam kalangan B40 dan M40. Namun, keberkesanannya bergantung kepada pelaksanaan yang telus, penyampaian maklumat yang berkesan serta kestabilan ekonomi makro. Itu saja. Sekian. Terima kasih.
Thank you for the presentation. We will now open the floor for the questions and answer session. If anyone has questions, you may raise your hand or indicate in the chat box. Okay, let me check if we have any questions in the chat box. Okay. All right. Okay, if there are no questions, we will proceed to the next presentation. Thank you so much. Okay. Next, we will now watch the video from the second presenter entitled A Multi-Level Integrity Framework for Public Sector Governance, Lessons Synthesized from Policing Research. Okay, kindly pay attention to the presentation video. Thank you. Please welcome.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi and a very good morning. My name is Nur Faizah binti Jamian, a corresponding author for a research titled A Multi-Level Integrity Framework for Office Sector Governance, Lessons Synthesized from Policing Research. Together with me, Nurlida Zakirai, Elai Zakaria, Idris Osman, Eratul Sheila Ishaq, Masliza Muhammad Azali, and we are from University Technology Mara, Malacca, Malaysia. Integrity is the cornerstone of ethical governance and public trust. It also reflects alignment between values, principle, and organizational behavior in public administration. Public trust, basically in organization institution, depends significantly on the integrity of public officials and the ethical credibility of administrative system. Integrity can be reflected through service outcome, where it can improve public services and reduce corruption risk. At the same time, it also can reflect to the institutional legitimacy by enhancing credibility through fairness and transparency while doing decision making. And lastly, can be seen from the accountability levels, a stronger compliance with legal norms and also public oversight will improve reputations of organizations. There are a lot of research conducted focusing on integrity. However, we identify several research gaps. The first one is fragmented perspective, where existing research examine integrity through isolated lenses, which is they are focusing on individual ethics, organizational culture, or institutional accountability rather than as integrated system. Gap number two, most of the research paper we found is Western-centric bias. Foundational research originates primarily from a Western context, thus limiting generalizability to diverse governance environment, mostly ASEAN's and developing regions. And the last gap that we found is static models. Prior frameworks categorize determinants within single level or static structure rather than theorizing dynamic cross-level interactions. So why policing research? Policing represents a high-stakes organizational environment in which integrity is constantly tested. As we can see, police officers exercise significant discretion in interpreting law, managing public interactions, and also responding to uncertain situations. So this discretion often exercised under limited supervision and at the same time exposed to ethical dilemmas and heightens the importance of internalized moral standards. In this context, integrity is not optional, but actually fundamentals to maintain institutional legitimacy and also public trust. As we can see, ethics failure in policing, ranging from corruptions to misuse of authority, leads to visible consequences for governance credibility. As a result, policing scholar has produced extensive empirical evidence on integrity determinants, including moral reasoning, organizational socializations, leadership behavior, accountability system, and cultural norm, such as the code of silence. So these studies employs a structured scoping review guided by the PRISMA SCR framework, basically to ensure transparency and replicability. Systematic research was conducted using two major databases. We are using Scopus and also Web of Science, ranging from 2015 to 2025. This research focused on peer-reviewed empiricals and conceptual studies related to the police integrity. Inclusion criteria comprised English language publication addressing determinant of integrity within policing context, while non-academic sources and unrelated topics were excluded. The research strategy employ combination of a keyword such as police integrity, ethical behavior, accountability, and organizational ethics by screening conducted through title, abstract, full text review in accordance with the PRISMA SCR procedures. So following screening and duplication removals, a total of 24 studies were included for this analysis. These studies were systematically coded and categorized into individual, organizational, and also societal levels to support multi-level framework development. So these are the multi-level framework where we can found individuals, which is focusing on moral reasoning and ethical sensitivity. And then it goes to the second layer for organizationals or MESO, ethicals, leaderships, and accountability system. And the last one, the outer layer is societal, legal framework, and public trust. So on the micro level determinant, integrity originates from individual moral cognition and also ethical disposition. We found that moral reasoning and also ethical sensitivity towards integrity, perceived seriousness of misconduct, willingness to report wrongdoing, professional socializations through ethics training, and also gender and socio-political orientations. So basically what we found, individual with higher ethical awareness demonstrate lower tolerance for misconduct and greater adherence to principles decision making. However, in organizational levels, institutional reinforcement or MESO levels, we found four reinforcement, which is the first one is ethical leadership, where leadership modeling significantly influence tolerance of misconduct and reporting norms. Ethical standards are socially reinforced within organizations. And then number two, integrity climates, organizational culture in organization, and also procedural justice basically can shape behavioral norms and also compliance with ethical standard. And then the third one is accountability system, by looking at the formal complaint handling mechanism, civilian is actually oversight structures, and early intervention system as functions as structural safeguard. And then the last one is cultural norms. This is merely to the informal peer expectations, like the code of silence, can undermine formal accountability system when misaligned. The last layer, the outer layer, is societal levels, governance legitimacy. Legal framework where regulatory structure defining formal expectation of integrity. And then the second one is actually being shaped by the public trust, active citizens engagement enhancing institutional resilience. And then the last one is by media scrutiny, where external oversight shaping the enforcement and perceptions of standards. Societal level conditions influence whether organizational accountability mechanisms are credible and sustainable. Integrity reflects alignment between institutional conducts and broader governance legitimacy. Basically, the widest coverage of any particular issues regarding integrity will actually making all the decision is more sensitive towards the ethical issues. These studies contribute to the literature on integrity and public sector governance in three key ways. The first one, it advances theory by integrating fragmented strands of integrity research into a coherent multi-level framework that explain how ethical behavior emerge through cross-level interactions. And the number two, the study extends the scope of policing research by demonstrating its analytical transferability to broader public sector governance. And then the last one, the study reconceptualizes integrity as a proactive governance capability rather than a reactive compliance outcome. So this perspective shift attention toward systematic institutional design, ethical leadership development, and alignment across governance levels, which offering a more strategic approach to strengthening integrity in public administrations. The finding also provide practical implications for policymakers and public sector leaders. If we take a look at the individual levels, recruitment, training, and professional development should be prioritized. Moral reasoning, ethical sensitivity, and also reflective decision making. While in the organizational level, integrity should be embedded within institutional structure, maybe through ethical leadership, transparent disciplinary system, effective complaint mechanism, and also data-driven monitoring tool. And lastly, at the societal levels, strengthening integrity may require coherent governance ecosystem that is supported by independent oversight, consistent legal enforcement, and transparent public engagement. However, despite of these contributions, we also acknowledge several limitations where the framework is actually derived from a scoping synthesis and reflect the breadth of existing scholar rather than primary empirical validation. So for the future research, it is suggested that empirical validations be done through multi-level modeling, longitudinal design, and also cross-national comparative analysis to refine the framework. That's all from me. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you so much to Mrs. Nur Faiza. And we do have a questions in our chat box to our presenter. Okay, so I will read out the questions. Mrs. Faiza, what lessons from policing research can improve integrity in public sector governance? Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the questions. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi and good afternoon. Basically, when we conducted the studies on these 24 articles we found from Scopus and also Web of Science, we identified one particular terms where we call it code of silence. So this code of silence we found a lot in mostly in the government sector's governance, basically in the uniform kind of work, police lah. Okay, so code of silence, if I can explain a little bit, code of silence is where all the misconduct or all the misbehavior happen in the organization basically put in silence. This is due to the culture itself. So that's why this study we are actually proposing to have a multi-levels. So we talk about this integrity, it is actually not because of you are wearing the uniform. It is actually more than that. Wearing a uniform is not really a measurement that you can use to measure whether this person can be believed, this person can do things, with a very good ethics, work habits, and so on. So it's actually combinations of the three levels, which is, of course, the first one come from within, from ourselves. It is individual levels, how your upbringings, maybe the value captured inside yourself, what are the teachings that has been taught during your childhood and so on, and then your intentions, your drive, and then followed by the organizational, and at the same time the societal, which is the what we call the community, also play a very a big role. And nowadays we are living in the world that every information that is just at the end of our fingertips. So we are looking very closely. We are the citizens is actually monitored all the decision made by this public sector. So I think this can also become one of the reason why I think it is about time the public sector governance should have a very good mechanism so that they can really put the integrity at objective. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the insightful response, Mrs. Faiza. Do we have any other questions from our audience here? Yes, okay, Prof. Mikio. Yes,
Can I
Prof.
ask?
Mikio.
Yeah, can I ask some question? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, because my microphone sometimes doesn't work. Thank you very much, Mrs. Faiza, for your presentation. And this area is not my area. My area is mostly international relations, but sounds quite interesting. In the beginning, you mentioned that most of the research in this field is more Western centric, right? So I'm just curious. So how you address this problem and to address the Western-centric approach and then the more, the Southeast Asian maybe approach, maybe reflecting maybe the cultural and normative differences. Yeah, so I'm just curious to know a little bit about this one. Thank you.
Yeah, based on 24 articles that we have read and also do some scoping review, so most of the papers, the studies context is not in the region of ASEAN. So all the papers is actually focusing on a lot of I think we thinks me and my team thinks that we can see that the Western culture, the Western peoples, they are actually a little bit transparent compared to the ASEAN. So we are in the ASEAN's most of our medias is not reporting directly from what really happened. So when we found that situation, so basically it's not because we don't have integrity issues, we do have, but it's maybe not getting enough coverage in the media. I mean, all the issues is being putting under the carpet. I think is not being discussed. Throughout the community. So, and most of the papers that we found is actually telling about the context of the Western, because most probably it is still integrity issue. It is taboo in basically in Malaysia, because I'm from Malaysia. So basically in Malaysia is still taboo, and then this public sectors basically they don't talk about it. So it's not because we don't have that problem. I do sure that there is an integrity problem there, but only we are very keep to ourselves. And then some, just now doctor also mentions that our cultures, ASEAN cultures, we compare to the Westerns, and that's why we have less research conducted in the ASEAN country.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Mikio, for your questions, and also to our presenter, Mrs. Faiza. Thank you very much. Okay, let's continue with our third video. Okay, the video is entitled Status dan Hala Tuju Hubungan Malaysia China dalam Prakarsa Jalur dan Laluan by Nur Ili Zuhaili Yahya. Okay, Miss Nur Ili. Okay, welcome. Let's pay attention to the presentation video. Thank you. Okay, Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Perbincangan saya pada hari ini bertajuk status dan hala tuju hubungan kontemporari Malaysia China dalam prakarsa jalur dan laluan. Seperti yang kita lihat, hubungan Malaysia dengan China ini menekankan pembangunan infrastruktur dan integrasi ekonomi, dan Malaysia menjadi rakan penting kerana lokasinya yang strategik, khususnya di laluan perdagangan utama dunia, dan projek seperti ICRL dan pelabuhan ia menunjukkan bagaimana BRI dilaksanakan secara praktikal di Malaysia. Dan maka semuanya bermula pada tahun 1975 di mana Malaysia telah menjadi negara ASEAN pertama yang mengiktiraf Republik Rakyat China secara rasmi, dan pengiktirafan awal ini ia telah membuka satu lembaran baharu yang membolehkan kedua-dua negara ini membina hubungan yang lebih rapat dari semasa ke semasa. Dan selepas itu hubungan dua halik Malaysia China ini berkembang dengan pantas, dan dalam tempoh beberapa dekad sahaja kita telah menyaksikan kerjasama ini kukuh dalam bidang perdagangan, pelaburan dan juga people to people exchange. Dan dalam erti kata lain, hubungan ini dia bukannya sahaja stabil, tetapi ia semakin mengakar dan meluas dari tahun ke tahun. Dan kemudiannya pada 2013, China telah melancarkan prakarsa jalur dan laluan ataupun lebih dikenali sebagai Belt and Road Initiative. Dan inisiatif ini memberi tumpuan kepada pembangunan infrastruktur dan pengukuhan rangkaian kerjasama antara negara, khususnya yang merentasi kawasan Eurasia seperti yang saya jelaskan tadi. Dan menariknya, BRI kini melibatkan lebih 200 perjanjian kerjasama ditandatangani yang melibatkan lebih 150 buah negara serta lebih 30 buah organisasi antarabangsa. Dan bagi Malaysia sendiri, penyertaan dalam BRI ini dia bukannya sahaja sekadar pembangunan infrastruktur, tetapi ia juga menunjukkan pengukuhan hubungan strategik dengan China, dan masa yang sama ia menunjukkan wujudnya kebergantungan yang semakin mendalam, dan khususnya dari segi ekonomi, dinamika geopolitik serta maupun infrastruktur sosial di Malaysia sendiri. Seterusnya, kita lihat di mana isu utama di dalam hubungan di antara Malaysia China. Yang pertamanya adalah risiko hutang, dan di dalam konteks hubungan Malaysia China di bawah BRI, salah satu isu utama yang sering dibangkitkan adalah risiko hutang. Dan Malaysia seperti negara-negara yang terlibat dalam projek infrastruktur berskala besar, mereka sendiri berhadapan dengan cabaran nak biayai projek-projek tersebut yang di mana kebanyakannya melibatkan kos yang sangat tinggi, dan pembiayaan ini sering dikaitkan dengan kedatangan dari segi bentuk pinjaman daripada institusi kewangan China sendiri, dan hal ini dia telah menimbulkan kebimbangan bahawa sekiranya pulangan ekonomi daripada projek tersebut tidak mencapai sasaran, Malaysia mungkin berdepan dengan beban hutang yang tinggi dalam jangka panjang. Dan tambahan pula, naratif antarabangsa mengenai debt trap diplomasi ini ia merujuk kepada situasi di mana negara peminjam berisiko kehilangan kawalan ke atas aset strategik sekiranya gagal membayar balik pinjaman mereka. Dan walau bagaimanapun, perkara ini masih diperdebatkan dan ia tetap menjadi kebimbangan dalam perbincangan dasar awam di Malaysia. Dan seterusnya kita boleh lihat dengan kebimbangan kedaulatan di mana isu kedua, penglibatan China dalam projek-projek utama seperti pelabuhan, landasan kereta api dan zon ekonomi khas ini boleh dilihat sebagai memberi pengaruh luar yang signifikan dalam sektor strategi negara, di mana sebahagian pihak mereka ini berpendapat bahawa kebergantungan kepada pelaburan dan kepakaran asing ini boleh menjejaskan keupayaan Malaysia untuk membuat keputusan secara bebas, terutamanya sekiranya perjanjian yang ditandatangani lebih memihak kepada pihak pelabur. Dan selain itu, terdapat juga kembangan bahawa aset-aset negara mungkin terdedah kepada pengaruh asing sekiranya pengurusan atau pemilikan melibatkan entiti luar. Kemudiannya, tetapi kerajaan Malaysia secara konsisten menegaskan bahawa semua perjanjian adalah tertakluk kepada undang-undang dan kepentingan nasional dan bagi memastikan kedaulatan negara terus terpelihara. Yang ketiganya, ketidakseimbangan kuasa, di mana China, mereka ini sebagai kuasa ekonomi global, mereka mempunyai kelebihan dari segi modal
dari segi teknologi dan juga pengaruh geopolitik, dan ini meletakkan Malaysia dalam kedudukan yang lebih lemah dari segi rundingan, terutama dalam projek-projek besar di bawah BRI. Dan ketidakseimbangan ini membolehkan mereka untuk tidak sepenuhnya memihak kepada Malaysia, seperti penggunaan tenaga kerja asing, kepada pemindahan teknologi yang terhad dan juga peluangan ekonomi yang tidak seimbang. Walaupun begitu, Malaysia telah mengambil langkah untuk merunding semula beberapa projek bagi memastikan hasil yang lebih adil dan seimbang, dan ini menunjukkan negara masih mempunyai ruang untuk mempertahankan kepentingannya sendiri. Dan yang keempat adalah sensitiviti politik domestik, di mana ia turut memainkan peranan penting dalam membentuk hubungan Malaysia-China, dan isu berkaitan pelaburan China ini sering menjadi topik perdebatan dalam politik tempatan, seperti semasa pilihan raya, dan pihak pembangkang dan masyarakat sivil kadang-kadang mempersoalkan ketelusan, manfaat sebenar dan juga implikasi jangka panjang projek-projek tersebut. Dan selain itu, sentimen awam juga boleh dipengaruhi oleh faktor seperti identiti nasional, seperti kebimbangan terhadap pengaruh asing dan persepsi terhadap keadilan ekonomi itu sendiri. Dan keadaan ini menjadikan kerajaan perlu lebih berhati-hati dalam menguruskan hubungan dengan China agar tidak mencetuskan ketidakstabilan politik atau kehilangan sokongan rakyat itu sendiri. Dan objektif kajian ini terdapat 4, di mana yang pertama adalah untuk menganalisis status semasa hubungan Malaysia dengan China di dalam BRI. Kemudian kita nak mengenal pasti kepentingan BRI kepada kedua-dua negara. Yang ketiganya untuk meneliti pengalaman pelaksanaan projek BRI di Malaysia, dan yang keempatnya kita nak menghuraikan hala tuju hubungan dua hala pada masa hadapan. Kemudiannya kita pergi kepada objektif yang pertama, di mana kita lihat pendirian Malaysia dengan China, dan di sini pendirian Malaysia dalam hubungan dengan China di bawah BRI boleh digambarkan sebagai pendekatan yang pragmatik dan berimbang, di mana Malaysia sendiri mereka tidak menolak kerjasama dengan China, tetapi sebaliknya mereka sendiri melihat ia sebagai peluang untuk memperkukuhkan pembangunan ekonomi negara, khususnya dalam sektor infrastruktur dan pelaburan. Tetapi dalam masa yang sama, Malaysia juga berhati-hati untuk memastikan bahawa setiap kerjasama yang dijalinkan ini tidak menjejaskan kepentingan nasional sendiri. Dan dalam hal ini, Malaysia menggabungkan dua elemen, iaitu kerjasama ekonomi dan juga perlindungan kepentingan nasional, di mana kerjasama ekonomi ini dilihat penting untuk merangsang pertumbuhan ekonomi dan meningkatkan peluang pekerjaan serta memperkukuh kedudukan Malaysia dalam rantaian ekonomi global. Tetapi perlindungan kepentingan nasional ini tetap menjadi keutamaan, dan ini termasuk memastikan projek-projek yang dilaksanakan memberi manfaat sebenar kepada rakyat dan tidak membebankan kewangan negara serta tidak menjejaskan kedaulatan negara itu sendiri. Selain itu, pendirian Malaysia juga dipengaruhi oleh politik domestik, di mana perubahan kerajaan, tekanan daripada pihak pembangkang serta sentimen awam yang memainkan peranan dalam menentukan pendekatan terhadap projek-projek melibatkan China itu sendiri. Dan dari sudut luar pula kita boleh lihat Malaysia mengamalkan dasar luar pelbagai hala, di mana negara Malaysia tidak bergantung kepada satu kuasa besar sahaja, tetapi mereka juga mengekalkan hubungan baik dengan pelbagai negara serta termasuk Amerika Syarikat, termasuk China dan juga negara-negara lain. Dan dalam masa yang sama, Malaysia juga memegang prinsip ASEAN Centrality, iaitu memastikan bahawa ASEAN kekal sebagai teras dalam menguruskan hubungan serantau dan tidak didominasi oleh kuasa luar. Manakala daripada perspektif China sendiri, Malaysia dilihat sebagai rakan strategi utama dalam ASEAN, di mana kedudukan Malaysia yang strategi di Asia Tenggara serta kestabilan ekonomi, ia menjadikan negara ini sebagai rakan penting dalam menjayakan inisiatif BRI. Dan antara kepentingan utama China iaitu untuk mengukuhkan rangkaian BRI dengan membina laluan perdagangan, logistik dan infrastruktur yang menghubungkan China dengan rantau Asia Tenggara. dan seterusnya ke pasaran global. Dan selain itu, China juga berminat untuk mendapatkan akses terhadap pasaran ASEAN sendiri, yang mana ASEAN mempunyai populasi yang besar dan potensi pertumbuhan ekonomi yang tinggi, dan Malaysia berperanan sebagai pintu masuk strategik ke rantau ini. Dan jika kita lihat daripada segi fokus kerjasama pula, China mereka memberi tumpuan kepada beberapa sektor utama seperti pembangunan infrastruktur, termasuk projek rel dan juga pelabuhan, dan ekonomi digital seperti ekonomi komunikasi dan juga e-dagang, serta tenaga boleh diperbaharui, dan sejajar dengan agenda pembangunan listrik global sendiri. Dan pendekatan China pula lebih kepada kepada pelaburan jangka panjang dan pembangunan bersama, dan China sering menekankan konsep win-win cooperation di mana kedua-dua pihak mendapat manfaat daripada kerjasama tersebut. Namun begitu, pendekatan ini juga dilihat dan tak lari dari setengah pihak sebagai strategi untuk China memperluaskan pengaruh ekonomi dan geopolitik di rantau ini. Dan sekiranya kita lihat daripada dinamik politik Malaysia pada tahun 2018, di mana pilihan raya umum telah memberi impak besar terhadap penglibatan Malaysia dalam BRI. Dan selepas perubahan kerajaan berlaku, beberapa projek utama telah dikaji semula, termasuk ECRL. Dan langkah ini diambil bagi meningkatkan ketulusan dan perjanjian serta mengurangkan beban kewangan negara. Dan kerajaan ketika itu mereka menilai semula kos, terma kontrak dan juga kepentingan jangka panjang projek tersebut. Dan dalam masa yang sama, Malaysia menolak naratif debt trap diplomasi. Sebaliknya, Malaysia menegaskan bahawa negara masih mempunyai keupayaan sendiri untuk menguruskan hutang secara berhemah. Dan bagi mencapai matlamat tersebut, Malaysia menggunakan strategi rundingan semula dengan pihak China untuk mendapatkan terma yang lebih menguntungkan. Dan selain itu, penekanan tersebut telah memberi kawalan dari segi fiskal dan memastikan kestabilan kewangan negara turut terpelihara tanpa menjejaskan pembangunan ekonomi. Seterusnya, berikut adalah antara projek-projek utama BRI, dan di antaranya adalah East Coast Rail Link (ECRL) yang bertujuan untuk meningkatkan konektiviti domestik antara pantai timur dan pantai barat Semenanjung Malaysia. Dan projek ini dijangka memudahkan pergerakan barangan dan juga penumpang dengan lebih efisien. Dan selain itu, Malaysia China Kuantan Industrial Park (MCKIP) berfungsi sebagai pusat industri dan perdagangan yang menggalakkan pelaburan serta aktiviti ekonomi, khususnya dalam sektor pembuatan dan juga logistik. Dan dari segi pelabuhan strategik, Port Klang dan juga Port Tanjung Pelepas memainkan peranan penting dalam hub perdagangan antarabangsa yang menghubungkan Malaysia dengan laluan maritim global. Dan secara keseluruhannya, projek-projek ini ia memberi impak besar dengan mengurangkan kos logistik, meningkatkan kecekapan rantaian bekalan itu sendiri serta memperkukuhkan lagi perdagangan domestik dan antarabangsa Malaysia. Seterusnya kita lihat daripada pengalaman dan juga impak daripada Belt and Road Initiative sendiri, di mana penglibatan Malaysia dengan BRI ia membawa pelbagai manfaat, dan antaranya adalah yang kita lihat di sini, pembangunan infrastruktur yang lebih moden, penciptaan peluang pekerjaan serta pemindahan teknologi yang dapat meningkatkan keupayaan tempatan kita sendiri. Namun begitu, semestinya terdapat beberapa cabaran di mana ia termasuk risiko hutang yang memberi tekanan kepada kewangan negara, kesan terhadap alam sekitar akibat projek berskala besar serta isu tadbir urus seperti keterusan dan juga accountability dalam pelaksanaan projek. Dan bagi menangani cabaran ini, Malaysia mengambil pendekatan yang lebih berhati-hati melalui rundingan semula projek-projek tertentu untuk mendapatkan terma yang lebih adil. Dan selain itu, Malaysia juga turut menekankan kepada aspek kemampatan dengan memastikan pembangunan yang dijalankan ia bukannya sahaja memberi manfaat kepada ekonomi, tetapi ia juga menjaga kesejahteraan sosial dan alam sekitar dalam jangka panjang. Dan bagi hala tuju masa hadapan pula, hubungan Malaysia-China ini di bawah BRI dijangka akan memberi fokus kepada bidang-bidang baharu seperti ekonomi digital, seperti teknologi hijau dan juga pembangunan mampan. Dan peralihan ini menunjukkan bahawa kerjasama ini Bukannya hanya tertumpu kepada infrastruktur semata-mata, tetapi ia turut merangkumi sektor berasaskan teknologi dan kelestarian yang selari dengan keperluan global masa kini. Dan dari segi faktor kejayaan pula, hubungan ini bergantung kepada beberapa elemen penting dan antaranya ialah kepercayaan strategik antara kedua-dua negara dan tadbir urus yang telus dalam pelaksanaan projek serta keselarasan dengan kepentingan nasional Malaysia. Dan kesemua faktor-faktor ini penting bagi memastikan kerjasama ini yang dijalinkan ini benar-benar memberi manfaat jangka masa yang panjang tanpa Malaysia sendiri menjejaskan mereka punya kedaulatan dan juga kestabilan negara. Dan secara keseluruhannya, hubungan Malaysia-China ini dijangka akan terus kukuh, namun dalam masa yang sama ia bersifat dengan lebih berhati-hati dan seimbang bagi menghadapi cabaran geopolitik dan ekonomi semasa. Dan sebagai kesimpulan, hubungan Malaysia-China ini boleh disifatkan sebagai hubungan strategik dan pragmatik dan Malaysia mengambil pendekatan untuk memaksimumkan manfaat daripada kerjasama ini khususnya dalam aspek pembangunan ekonomi dan infrastruktur sambil pada masa yang sama menguruskan risiko yang mungkin akan timbul pada masa hadapan. Dan biar i-LEdHS menawarkan peluang yang besar terhadap Malaysia sendiri, namun ia juga memerlukan pengurusan yang berhati-hati agar kepentingan nasional Malaysia, agar kestabilan ekonomi Malaysia dan kedaulatan negara Malaysia terus terpelihara. Dan secara keseluruhannya, kejayaan hubungan ini bergantung kepada keupayaan Malaysia untuk mengekalkan keseimbangan antara kerjasama dan kepentingan sendiri dalam jangka panjang. Dan akhirnya, daripada saya bukan soal peluang yang datang, tetapi bagaimana Malaysia mengawal arah dan manfaat daripada peluang tersebut. Sekian, terima kasih.
Okay, Miss Nur Ili, thank you so much for your presentation. Okay, I do have a question for you. Saya ada soalan ya. Apakah cabaran semasa atau cabaran terkini yang dihadapi oleh Malaysia dalam membentuk hala tuju masa depan hubungan dengan China di bawah inisiatif ini? Or the question is, what are the current or most recent challenges faced by Malaysia in shaping the future direction of its relationship with China under this initiative? I believe this BRI stands for Belt and Road Initiative. Betul ke? Is it correct? Ni Miss Ili? BRI. Miss Ili? Do we have Miss Ili here? Okay, let me check. Miss Ili, our presenter just now. Not here. Okay, then we shall proceed. Okay, with Prof. Mikio. Okay. We will now proceed with the presentation for paper ID CHS 23 by our Associate Professor Dr. Mikio Oishi with the paper entitled Reframing the South China Sea Dispute, Civilizational Mediation, Historical Memory and Hybrid Governance in East Asia. Okay, please welcome. Let's watch the video now.
Hello, distinguished colleagues. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to present my paper. Today, I would like to discuss the South China Sea dispute from a slightly different perspective. Instead of focusing only on power politics, international law, or military competition, I analyze the South China Sea disputes from the perspective of governance in international anarchy. The South China Sea is often described as a very dangerous region. We see naval incidents, diplomatic tensions, incompatible territorial claims, involvement of major powers like the United States and China. However, despite these tensions, the disputes have not escalated into a large-scale war. This is an important puzzle. Why has war not happened? My argument is that a very good governance system is actually working in the South China Sea. It is not perfect, but it is functioning well enough to prevent war. In international relations, we often say that the world is anarchy. Anarchy does not mean chaos. It means there is no world government. But even without world government or overall central authority, countries still create order. This is what we call governance. Governance means rules, norms, practices, and institutions, which regulates behavior. The South China Sea is one example where governance exists without the central authority. To understand governance in the South China Sea, we must understand China's perspective. China's foreign policy is strongly influenced by what is called the century of humiliation. This refers roughly to the period from the Opium War in the 19th century until the end of World War II. During this period, China was invaded, territories were taken, unequal treaties were imposed, and China lost control over many areas. Because of this historical experience, territorial integrity and sovereignty are extremely sensitive issues for China. So China's behavior in the South China Sea is not only about oil, gas, or strategy. It is also about history, identity, and national dignity. China often argues that its claims in the South China Sea are based on historical rights. These include historical navigation, fishing activities, old maps, and long historical connections. These claims are often seen as incompatible with the claims of Southeast Asian countries. However, this paper suggests a different interpretation. China's claims and the claims of other littoral countries are not necessarily completely incompatible. Why? Because historically, control over the South China Sea was not based on strict modern sovereignty. Instead, the sea was used by many different peoples: Chinese, Vietnamese, Malays, Filipinos, and others. So historically, the South China Sea was more like a shared maritime space, not strictly divided territory. This means the dispute may be less about absolute ownership and more about how to manage shared space. To understand this governance system, this paper uses two concepts. The first is mediation regime. A mediation regime is an international regime formed to manage conflict. It has two main functions. First, it regulates the behavior of parties. For example, countries avoid escalation. They continue negotiations. They show restraint. Second, it reframes the conflict. Instead of seeing the conflict as winner versus loser, the conflict is reframed as coexistence, cooperation, joint development, conflict management. ASEAN processes and diplomatic dialogues are examples of this mediation regime. The second concept is the hybrid system. A hybrid system combines mediation regime promoted by ASEAN and China and alliance system created by the United States. The mediation regime helps through dialogue, norms, diplomacy. The alliance system helps through deterrence, balance of power. So, peace in the South China Sea is maintained by both mediation and deterrence. This combination forms a hybrid governance system. One of the main arguments of this paper is that the governance in the South China Sea reflects Asian ways of managing conflict. This is different from mainstream Western approaches. There are three important characteristics. One, multidimensional governance. Countries can cooperate economically, negotiate politically, compete strategically, all at the same time. Relations are not purely hostile or purely friendly. Two, layered sovereignty. Sovereignty is not always absolute. Countries can cooperate in fisheries, conduct joint development, manage environment together, even without solving sovereignty disputes. 3. Historical and cultural influence. The system is influenced by historical experiences, including the tributary system of the Ming Dynasty of China, historical memories, regional norms, and emphasis on harmony and coexistence. The main implication of this paper is the following. The South China Sea disputes may look intractable, but they are actually being managed through governance mechanisms. So, instead of asking who owns the South China Sea, we should ask how can the South China Sea be governed peacefully? This is a very different perspective. To conclude, the South China Sea disputes have not escalated into war. This is because a form of governance exists. This governance is a hybrid system of mediation and deterrence. It reflects Asian styles of governance. Historical experiences, including China's historical memory, are important. The disputes may be managed through governance, not necessarily solved through sovereignty decisions. Thank you very much for your kind attention. I look forward to your comments and discussions.
Thank you so much. Okay, a very interesting topic by Prof. Mikio. We do have a questions in our chat box to our Prof. Mikio. So the questions is from my colleague actually. Okay, in discussing the South China Sea dispute, you emphasize that China's historical rights and claims. Could you explain why the focus is primarily on China rather than incorporating the perspectives and claims of other countries in the region? Okay.
Dr. Hani, thank you very much for sharing the question. Yeah, that is quite interesting question. So actually, my focus is more understanding China's perspective, right? And yeah, bottom line is that that question is exactly what I wanted to do in the next stage, yeah? Because so far I have been more focusing on, because many scholars, especially the Western scholars, and discussing this issue, and I strongly feel they don't have the sufficient understanding on what is happening, and the main factor is their lack of understanding of Chinese perspective. And so this paper is definitely more focusing on understanding and Chinese perspective, and including the historical rights. Yeah? Historical right is not not justified by the UNCLOS, United Nations UNCLOS, Convention of the Peace and the Sea and Law, and legally cannot justify, but still China wants to say, China has something to say, their own position. So my basic idea is first we need to understand in China's perspective, historical. Right? Then based on that understanding, and there might be we can and more productive, creative, and dialogue discussion will be developed. And definitely then, of course, then definitely the next stage is for the country surrounding South China Sea and their own historical rights, definitely. So this is quite interesting topic. Yeah? So I'm now thinking about looking for some research partner and joining this project at the next stage. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you for your response. Okay, and I also believe actually this topic, this study would definitely benefit us, especially since we have a very good relationship between our country and China. And after all, with all the conflicts that are happening right now, so I believe this would really benefit not only our country, China, and the other countries that you intend to further extend the research to. And I will also now open the floor for the questions and answer session if we have our members here. Okay. Okay, we have one guest who is joining. Okay. Okay. Let me admit our guest first. Okay. Okay, do we have a questions from our audience? I would like to welcome anyone to ask the questions to Prof. Mikio.
Mine is not a question, actually. My name is Walter Castirodi. I'm a student, PhD at UITM, Sharlam, and I come from Zimbabwe. And I'm excited. I just want to comment and say that thank you to Dr. Mikio for a wonderful presentation, because it gives a different perspective. For me, it's just a comment, it's not a question, but I just want to appreciate the perspective that he's giving. While there's the emphasis, like, if we're looking at the question from a Western lens, we tend to look for conflict rather than cooperation, rather than the shared historical relations that have been positive, that has characterized the whole region. So I would really want to appreciate the perspective that she has given. I think it gives a different a nuance to the whole understanding of the whole situation. It's more oriented towards conflict resolution rather than looking for problems and then escalate, more like a cold conflict where you are looking for fissures and then you try to escalate so that you divide people, you divide a whole region on the basis of looking for, I mean, there are more things that are positive that can be looked into, that can be appreciated. If there are any differences, they can still be solved in an amicable way, in a way that has made the region continue to enjoy the peace that it does. Otherwise, everybody loses if we look at the differences. And if we emphasize the differences, then everyone loses. The whole region can be in turmoil. I mean, that's the same thing that is happening in the Middle East, where people look for fissures, look for differences, and then they try to emphasize those differences. They amplify them, and then the whole region and perhaps not only the whole region, but the whole world is in turmoil because of that one thing. Thank you so much, Dr. Mikio, and thank you so much, Dr. Anis, for giving me the opportunity to share.
Thank you, Mr. Walter.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your very insightful comment, Mr. Kasirawari. And okay, do we have any other comment or questions from our audience? Okay, so if there are no questions anymore, we will proceed to the next presentation. So I would like to now play a video from our presenter, Dayang Masliha binti Muhammad Rahman. Okay, Miss Dayang. Okay, the presentation is entitled Plastic Waste Management Practices in Rural Coastal Communities, a Knowledge, Attitude and Practice, KAP Analysis in Kuala Penyu, Sabah. Okay, so kindly pay attention to the presentation video. Please welcome.
To share my research at this conference. I would like also to extend my greeting to the respected panel and also the fellow participants. My name is Dayang Masliha binti Muhammad Rahman. As a presenter today, the title of my presentation today is the Plastic Waste Management Practices in Rural Coastal Community, a Knowledge, Attitude and Practices Analysis in Kuala Penyu, Sabah. So this research is actually conducted under supervisions of Dr. Muhammad Tahir Mapa and also Dr. Linda Roseni Jamru from University Malaysia Sabah. Okay, without further ado, let's begin with the presentations. Before I move further into the detail of this study, I would like to begin with a short reflection. I personally believe that the research of an environmental issue should not only present the data, but it helps raise awareness and encourage reflection among the community. So the image and the video here went viral on the social media several months ago. Although this incident did not occur in my specific study area, but it highlights a situation that common in many places. Okay, we can see here a large accumulation of the plastic bottle and also other waste where does not belong here at the first place. So this situation actually is particularly concerned about because the plastic waste does not disappear quickly, but plastic can take up 450 years to disappear from the environment. So this is example as an issue. So it highlights why understanding people, knowledge, attitude and practices is very important. So with that in mind, this leads directly to the focus of my study. For the introductions, plastic pollution has become one of the most pressing environment challenge in Asia today. So according to Taylor's study in 2020, Malaysia is among the top Asian consumer of the plastic packaging. So currently, Malaysia generates about 19,000 tons of the solid waste every day, and about 24% of this waste consists the plastics. But in Sabah, waste management system face an additional challenges because the state rely heavily on the local activity rather than centralized national department. So the situation is especially very critical in the coastal community that plastic material can take until 1,000 years to degrade, meaning that the mismanaged plastic waste can accumulate in the river and also the coastal environment that can contribute to the marine pollution, drainage block and the urban flooding. To better understand, the study applies KAP model. So the first one is knowledge, which refers to what community know about. The second one is attitude, which reflects how people feel about the issue and their willingness to take action to reduce the plastic waste. And the lastly is the practice, which look at what people actually do in their daily life. So by examining these three components, the KAP framework actually can help us understand whether the environmental awareness and also the positive attitude are translate into the real environmental behavior. So therefore, the objective of this study is to explore how community knowledge and also the attitude toward the plastic pollutions can influence their waste management practices. Next, I will briefly explain the method used in this study. So, this study actually was conducted in Kuala Penyu, 100 km from the city center, Kota Kinabalu. So, the study applied KAP model to assess the community awareness, perception, and also the daily waste management behavior. And data were collected from the 100 respondents using a systematic sampling method to ensure that the participants were selected in the structural manner. And the questionnaire used a 5-point Likert scale, which represent from strongly disagree to strongly agree, and were collected in December 2025. And to ensure the reliability of the research instrument, a Konbak alpha was conducted. Now, I will briefly explain the demographic finding of this study. Starting with the gender, the majority of the respondents were female, with a total 58 participants. In terms of the age distribution, most of the respondents were below 24 years old. And looking at the residential status, a large number of respondents reported that they live in their own house. And for the education level, the findings show that the most respondents had completed the Sijil Pelajaran Malaysia (SPM). And finally, regarding the occupation, the majority of the respondents were employed, and only 4 respondents were unemployed. Now, let's discuss the finding. Let's start from the knowledge regarding the plastic waste. Okay, before I explain more details, I would like to briefly mention that this visual summary was generated using the notebook LM. So, this tool actually can help transform research finding into structural visual summarize, making complex information easily to communicate and also help the audience quickly understand the key insight from the study. Okay, this slide is actually show the knowledge in the Kuala Penyu. On the left side, we can see the clear environmental awareness strengths. Respondents show very high understanding of the ecosystem impact. They also show the strong collective responsibility and the good procedural knowledge. However, on the right side, important gaps still remains. So awareness of the plastic bag ban is a lower. Knowledge of the Majlis Daerah Kuala Penyu rules is only moderate, and there's still a confusion in distinguishes recyclable and non-recyclable plastics. So the key message here is that the community understand the environmental problem very well, but still needs stronger policy, institutional, and also the technical guidelines. Okay, this slide show that public attitude in Kuala Penyu is generally very positive and supportive of change. On the left side, respondents show very high concern about the pollutions and a strong support for reducing plastic bag use and even implementing of the total ban. So there is also strong agreement that the current status quo is insufficient. So with respondents calling for greater national efforts. However, on the right side, some practical concerns remain. Waste segregation is still seen as a difficult without the clear guidelines. At the same time, satisfaction with the local waste services is only moderate. Interestingly, reusable bags are not seen as a major inconvenience, but overall, the attitude is not the main problem. The community is ready for change, but they need for better support, clear guideline, and also the strong service delivery. This slide presents the practice finding, and it shows a clear construct between the community commitment and also the practical limitation. So on the left side, there are several encouraging strengths. The use of reusable bag recorded at the highest mean, which is 4.31, showing the strong alignment with the plastic reduction efforts. So respondents also show the high individual agency, meaning they believe their daily action can make a difference. So responsible disposal habits are also positive, but however, on the right side, several bottlenecks appear. As sorting becomes more complex, practice began to decline. So the use of the 3-color recycling bin recorded the lowest mean, suggests limited access, visibility, and also familiarity with the proper infrastructure. So in addition, the plastic-free alternative in the local retail setting may be still limited. So overall, the community is willing to act, but practice is constrained by the complexity, infrastructure, and also the limited choices. Okay, to bring all our findings together, I would like to direct your attention to this graphic. So we have chosen a funnel shape to represent the journey from the environmental awareness to actual daily habit in Kuala Penyu. So it perfectly illustrated our co-finding that while the foundation of the environmental consciousness is wide and very strong, the actual technical output remains restricted by the systematic barrier. So as the very top, we can see the widest part of the tunnel, which is the knowledge. In Kuala Penyu, this is where the community excels. So as our data show, there is a very high awareness of the pollution effect. So the community actually is deeply informed that the why of the environmental protection. They have the massive intellectual foundation ready to be tapped into. So as we move down to the funnel, we reach the attitude. This is still a strong section representing the community willingness to separate their waste and support restrictive policy such as the plastic bags ban. So however, you can see the funnel beginning to narrow here. This is because despite their willingness, residents begins to feel the pressure of a guidance gap. They want to act, but they are waiting for their clearly instruction. So finally, we reach the narrowest part of the funnel, which is a practice. This is the bottleneck of our study. So while knowledge and also the attitude are high, technical execution, specifically for the complex sorting and the bin usage, is where the flow stops. So this is confirmed that even with the best intention, residents cannot perform at a high level if the physical infrastructure is missing or if the sorting process feels too complicated. So the key message here is perhaps the most important takeaway of this study. High awareness does not automatically translate into the technical compliance. We cannot simply rely on more awareness campaign. So in Kuala Penyu, the awareness bucket is already full. To widen the bottom of the funnels, our focus must be shifted toward the improving waste collection services, simplifying sorting procedure, and also strengthening the enforcement of the Uniform Bylaw of 2016. So by addressing the structural barrier of the bottom of this funnel, we can ensure that the high environmental knowledge of the Kuala Penyu community finally can translate into the consistent technical practices required for the true circular economy. Knowing the heartless is only half of the battle. So to transform Kuala Penyu into the leader for sustainable waste management, our study proposed a 3 targeted direction. The first one, we must beyond save the earth slogan. So residents already understand the why. They know how pollution destroy the coast. What the lack is procedural knowledge. So we need to purpose the education program to the technical how to, providing the clear visual and step-by-step guidance on household waste segregations. The secondly is we must end the infrastructure deserts. Our data show that the people cannot practice what they cannot access. So for example, bin usage was at our lowest score. So we propose a high density rollout of visible 3-color recycling bins specifically within the coastal villages. So by aligning the physical tools with the community high willingness to act, we lower the barrier to technical compliance. Finally, we must clear the institutional fog. So public awareness of the Kuala Penyu District Council (MDKP) and also the local regulations remain only moderate. So the local authority must enhance their presence through the localized outreach, the clear defining their roles and also the rules of the plastic ban. So strengthening this communication builds the public trust and also the compliance necessary for a unfined response. So in summary, we don't need more awareness. We need the better training, we need the better tools, and also we need the better communication. So by taking these three areas, we can bridge the gap and also secure a sustainable future for the Kuala Penyu. Okay, every research project has boundaries, and identify them is the first step toward the building a more robust and effective waste management, especially for the Sabah. So the challenge, the limitation here is the first one is involve self-reporting bias. So because of our data was collected through the questionnaire, this possibility of the social bias where the respondent can over-report the positive habit like for example, the waste segregation to align with the perceived of the social norm. So this is a very common in the environmental study. So what we suggest is to beyond this, the future research or the future study should incorporate directly to observations, waste audit and also behavioral taking to validate what people say and what they actually do. The secondly is our geographic scope was very limited specifically to the rural coastal in Kuala Penyu. While these findings are very essential for coastal governance, they may not be fully generalized to urban center in Sabah. So we suggest that the future study conduct comparative study across the multiple district lah. So comparing rural coastal community with the inland community will provide much deeper insight into how geography can influence the plastic disposal behavior. And finally, our study utilized a cross-sectional design which capture community perception and also the practices at a single point at time. So this is a snapshot, cannot capture the long-term durability of the behavior changes or how habit might involve a new policy or infrastructure introduced. So to address this, we recommend adopting the longitude study by tracking a community over a month or over the years, that we can measure the true effectiveness of the education intervention and also the policy shift like the 2022 enactment. So by addressing this limitation through the waste audit, regional comparison and also long-term tracking, we can bridge the remaining knowledge gap and build truly evidence-based path toward the circular economy, especially in Sabah. As this video shown, Kuala Penyu is not only a place of the natural beauty, but also a community whose future depends on how we manage our environment today. So this study reminds us that protecting our ecosystem is not solely the responsibility of the governments. It also begins with the individual's awareness, community and also everyday practices. Okay, I always mention this at any conference I attend, which is the first lessons of the sustainability begins at home. So in this choice we make, the ways we manage and the responsibility we share toward our environment. So with that, I will like to thank you for all your attention until the end, and I welcome any question. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much.
Sejahtera everyone. Firstly, I would like to
Thank you very much to our presenter, Ms. Dayang Masliha. Okay, Ms. Dayang, we do have questions for you. Okay, Ms. Dayang. Ms. Dayang is here, right?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I will read out the questions. Now, Ms. Dayang, based on your KAP findings, okay, KAP findings, your knowledge, attitude and practice, okay, KAP findings, what is the biggest gap between knowledge and actual practices in plastic waste management among communities in Kuala Penyu? Thank you, Ms. Dayang.
Sorry, can you
Yes, sure. Yeah, sure. Okay, based on your KAP findings, what is the biggest gap between knowledge and actual practices in plastic waste management among communities in Kuala Penyu? We also have the question actually in the chat box, Ms. Dayang.
Okay. Sorry. So actually, what is the biggest gap between the knowledge and also the attitude and also the practices? Actually, this not fully translate apa ni into the consistent practice lah. Like I mentioned in the finding, every knowledge the community have and every attitude they have, they're not actually translate into the real practice because of the first one, because of the the lack clear instruction lah on how to proper manage the plastic waste at the first one lah. The second one is the limited access to recycling facility, because Kuala Penyu actually one of the place in the rural area lah. So this is the biggest gap or problem I can say lah. So and the third one is the institution itself lah, because they are they are less awareness of the role the of the Majlis Daerah Kuala Penyu lah, the local authority and also the specific policy lah. So actually the biggest gap is not awareness lah, but the translation into the translation from the awareness into the action actually lah. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much, Ms. Dayang, for your insightful response. Do we have any other questions from our audience to Ms. Dayang? Okay. If there are no questions, we will proceed to the next presentation. However, I really like it, Ms. Dayang, when you mentioned that this awareness, okay, all this begins at home. Okay, that's something that we all should remember. Thank you, Ms. Dayang. Okay, let's continue with our next video by Ms. Zin Nun Azmi. The presentation is entitled Park Landscape Attributes for Mental Restoration, a case study at Shah Alam Lake Park, West Lake. Okay, please welcome.
Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. First of all, let me start by saying a few words about my own background. My name is Zinul Azmi. I'm currently further my study in Built Environment course, Master in Science at University Technology Wara Shah Alam. Today, I'm representative my team, which including Nur Hadisa, Sharifah Khaliza, Nur Huzailin, and Aprian. As you can see on the screen, my presentation today is about Park Landscape Attribute for Mental Restoration, a case study at Shah Alam Lake Park, specifically at West Lake. For agenda, there will be 6 agenda including and references. The placement and layout of park attribute positively influence visitor emotional and psychological response. Due to increasing in mental health issue related to urban stress, it highlight the need of the nature setting in urban landscape. Parks should attract diverse visitors, ensuring that women, children, and elderly feel welcoming. These efforts support SDG 3, Good Health and Wellbeing, and SDG 11, Sustainable City and Community. By 2030, an estimated 3 of the 5 people will live in the city, making urban park essential for recreational purpose and social well-being. The World Health Organization emphasized the central link between mental health and overall health, stating no health without a mental health. Mental health disorders significantly impact daily life, leading to the loss of productivity, particularly worsened by the urbanization. Quality urban park green space can potentially improve mental health issue among urban residents by promoting physical activity, reducing anxiety, and fostering a sense of community. Despite evidence suggested green space benefit, the understanding of its impact on mental health remained limited due to the varying research methodology. Moreover, it is addressing the imbalance in green space planning is crucial for enhancing urban residential mental health and cognitive function. The study adapted the mental restoration attribute wheel. It involved a systematic review and thematic analysis of 16 studies out of 178 screening articles from Science Direct and Scopus, published between 2019 until the 2024. The objective is to identify theory, including attention restoration theory, stress recovery theory, arousal theory, and post-break refuge theory. Key findings including six main attributes, which is green attribute, blue attribute, inclusions of living animal, safety, space representation and layout, and activities engagement. In total, there are 34 sub-landscape attributes and 53 landscape features identified. This finding will guide the evaluations by listing the park attribute and characteristic for each selected spot. Located in Shah Alam, Selangor, Malaysia, the study area have 43 hectares and was designed by a famous landscape architect Fumiyaki Takano. It is the first public park in Selangor, opening in 1985, focusing in West Lake area, which is approximately 3.8 km long and covered 90 hectares in total, with 10 hectares of lake. It is the largest area among the other zone. Hence, the area offers most of the activities, engagement, and opportunity, mainly family-oriented activity. The study used qualitative method employed involving two observations inspired by simulated walking and viewing commonly used in restoration study. It established systematic observation method for photo selection in 20 areas, utilized a landscape camera setup to achieve approximately 360-degree panoramic image, maintaining horizontal line at the center and camera at the observer eyes level about 1.48 meters. First camera angle focusing on the main viewpoint, specifically Parkway Center, resulting as a boundary zone defining for a second observation using a mental restoration attribute checklist. The pre-visit preparation involves several process outlined, including defining the study objective, which is to examine park design attributes that contribute to mental restoration, specifically at the Shah Alam Lake Park West Lake. A desktop study was conducted to review a relevant literature, maps, and priori research. Preparation including gathering data collection tools such as a phone camera with GPS application, a site area map, and a checklist of the mental restoration attribute. During the site visit, it showed the data collection to a month to ensure trueness and verification. Hotspots were finalized as the study area along with their attribute. Photo collected will be used as visual tool and included in questionnaire for survey regarding a landscape preference in the further study. This paper only focused on identifying mental restoration attribute at Shah Alam Lake Park West Lake. The procedure, including the study, identified a starting point for exploration at the entrance near Perbadanan Kemajuan Negeri Selangor headquarters, processing from the right to the left of the park area. Selection of the hotspot is based on several sources, which is including a park map, attraction list from Majlis Bandaraya Shah Alam website, list from Selangor or Shah Alam tourism website, pin location in a Google map, resulting a total of 20 hotspots have been selected and finalized for inclusion in the study materials. For result discussion in blue attribute, total of 20 hotspots were analyzed, only 85% exhibiting blue attribute. 50% were lack of it, primarily due to the distance from the water and dominance of a landside amenity. Overall, blue attribute coverage at the park were 60%. Three standout hotspots with a full of blue attribute were cultural stage, zipline, and observation towers. Recognized from their restorative experience, Integration of the attribute provide opportunity for visitor experience aligning with the attention restoration theory, stress recovery theory, and post-pet refuge theory. In green attribute, most of landscape feature compliant 100% across this park. Yet, 3 of 11 features are in the moderate level in 55% to 95% compliance, resulting that the park demonstrates a high level of green attribute integration, supporting mental restoration aligned with the stress recovery theory and attention restoration theory. As for the activity engagement opportunity, there is 5 hotspots with all 50 features, including zipline, children bicycle track, first playground, canopy bridge, and second solar bridge. This zone caters the need of a family-oriented activity, physical activity, active engagement, social interaction, and social and group engagement. Yet, 16 hotspots were moderate covers for its seating area and only 2 hotspots limited provision for its exercise equipment. However, despite a low score, the park actually aligned with the restorative landscape model by balancing movement-based and passive natural engagement. Conclude that the park offers a consistent baseline of recreational and social infrastructure beneficial for diverse visitors' mental restoration. Measures for space represent and layout, all 20 hotspots were analyzed for landscape structure attribute, resulting 100% accessibility is noted for all 20 hotspots. 70 hotspots provided aesthetic and calming landscape feature, while 18 hotspots indicate area of comfort. And 8 hotspot has an access to trail length and blue space. Therefore, only 8 hotspot meet all landscape feature criteria. It has been seen that the park reflects the physical geography of the lakeside and shows uneven waterfront connectivity across the hotspot network. Thus, the structure design of the park supports restorative experience for visitors throughout its area. For safety, maintenance, safety and cleanliness achieve 100% compliance across 20 hotspots. Landscape features like lighting and park safety will only apply at 19 hotspots, achieving 95% compliance. Safety features were available at 80 out of 20 hotspots, resulting in 96% compliance and only 4% non-compliant in safety overall. This result indicates strong park management practice and consistent of its maintenance. Hence, safety is essential for effective restorative engagement. As for the physical threat or feeling of insecurity inhibits mental restoration for visitors regardless of the landscape attribute. In inclusions of living animal, this park feature a diverse landscape with a land animal and nature sound, achieving 100% compliance. Out of 20 hotspots, only 7 experience a bird water sound and 12 contain water animal, indicating 60% of hotspots have a both land and water animal inclusion. Yet, 40% of the hotspots have only land animal. The top hotspot that provide comprehensive landscape attribute including a culture stage, wet well, first solar bridge, and cultural musical fountain. It can be concluded that the park established a strong biological baseline across its geographical area, positively affecting visitors' restorative experience and perceptions of ecological authenticity, resulting in park landscape attribute at Shah Alam Lake Park with lake in total, which the analysis identify 5 highest performance hotspot, which is
I
culture
kena balik
stage,
lah.
zip line,
Husband kat
canopy
ni
bridge,
putih.
first playground, and observation
Stay.
tower. Culture stage and zip line
Yeah.
score the highest with a score reflecting integration of the various landscape feature with 53 in total, enhancing mental restorations and cognitive health. The canopy bridge and the first playground scored 15 out of 53, showcasing their highest integrations of the landscape attribute and their ecological connections, promoting visual access to the lake and engagement with the nature. The observation tower scored 49 out of 53 landscape features. It is shown that this hotspot collectively exhibits comprehensive restorative qualities highlighted by their integrations of the multiple landscape dimensions. As conclusion, the study assessment of 20 hotspots across 6 landscape attribute category using the mental restoration attribute wheel at the Shah Alam Lake Park West Lake, Malaysia. Findings serve as the evidence-based guidance for a landscape architect, urban planner and a policymaker for developing urban park that facilitate mental restoration. Contribute to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 3, Good Health and the Well-being, and 11, Sustainable City and Community. This study limitation noted including focus only on the waste lake zone, restricting representativeness to the other park area. Study rely on the qualitative observational method, lacking visitor perception survey and quantitative psychological measure. The mental restoration attribute wheel might not encompass all culturally specific factors influencing mental restoration in Malaysian urban park. Future studies are encouraged to utilize mixed method approach, including a wide range of the park zone and greater use reported restorative experience for validation and expansion of the finding. Last but not least, as for the references, below is the list of references used for this study for future refer. And that concludes my presentation. Today, thank you for listening and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with everyone.
Thank you so much to our presenter, Miss Zainun. Okay, Miss Zain, are you there with us?
Hi, yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so we do have a questions for you. The question has been posted in the chat box. Okay, so I will read out the questions. Based on your KAP findings, how can the findings from Shah Alam Lake Park be applied to improve the design of other urban parks to better support mental well-being?
Okay, first of all, thank you for the questions. Um, I'm studying in landscape, so the finding of my study actually can apply to improve the design of other urban park for better support mental well-being. Actually, first thing, Malaysia actually lack for mental awareness. I should say something like that lah. And most of them actually they are not quite open for talk go to therapy or psychology for tell about their mental health problem. So actually the urban part itself actually be as a area that actually boleh cakap macam dia tak secara physically people thought dia tak ada any benefit in well-being, but actually in many theory the attribute and the environment impact actually help in well-being, mental well-being. That's all for me. Sorry Dr. Anis, suara tak dengar.
Okay, thank you so much, Miss Zain. Actually, your topic is very interesting because when we first read your topic, we were like thinking what is actually the connection between park landscape with with a mental health issue. Okay, but after we listen to your presentation, okay, all right, we can relate actually. So thank you very much. Do we have another question, sir, from our audience? Any other questions? Okay. Before we proceed with our final presentation and video, I would like to a gentle reminder to all our presenters and participants here to fill in your attendance. Okay, we have shared the attendance link in our chat box. So kindly fill in the attendance form. And we will now proceed with our final video by Miss Aina Shifa Bukhari, And the video is entitled Tourism Value Perception of Gua Pelangi Archaeological Site by Local Visitors. Okay, please welcome.
Good day. It is a pleasure to be here today. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present my study entitled Archaeotourism at Gua Pelangi, the Role of Destination Attractiveness in Driving Visitor Satisfaction. This presentation will cover first, introduction of archaeotourism, Malaysia tourism context, background of Gua Pelangi, problem statement, research objectives, methodology, findings and analysis, and also recommendations and conclusions. First, let's begin with the concept of archaeotourism. Archaeotourism refers to tourism activities that focus on archaeological and historical sites. It allows visitors to experience and learn about ancient culture, artifacts, and heritage in their original setting. This form of tourism is important because it creates what we call a tribe value. First, educational value. Second, conservation value. And third, economic value. So, archaeotourism is not just about visiting a place, it is about meaningful engagement with history while supporting sustainability. Moving on to Malaysia tourism sector. Tourism plays a vital role in Malaysia economy. It contributes significantly to national income, employment opportunity, cultural promotion. Malaysia is known for its diversity, uh, such as natural landscape, cultural heritage, and historical sites. However, in today's competitive tourism industry, destination must offer a unique environment experiences. Specifically important for niche tourism like archaeotourism. Now let's look at the study location, which is Gua Pelangi. Gua Pelangi is an archaeological site located in Negeri Sembilan and is estimated to be around 14,000 years old. It is significant because it contains evidence of early human settlement. It has strong archaeological and historical value. It is surrounded by natural landscapes such as forests and limestone formations. Visitors can engage in activities like hiking, cave exploration, and nature appreciation. Despite its potential, Gua Pelangi is still despite its potential, Gua Pelangi is still underdeveloped compared to other tourist destinations. Next is problem statement. Although Gua Pelangi has strong potential, several issues exist, such as first, low awareness among the visitors about its archaeological importance. Secondly, limited facilities and infrastructure. Third, accessibility challenges. And fourth, inconsistent experience by the visitors. Therefore, it is important to study what factors influence visitor satisfaction at these destinations. Next one is research objective. The objective of this study are first to identify key destination attractiveness factors. Secondly, to examine visitors' perception. Third, to evaluate visitor satisfaction level. Fourth, to analyze the relationship between attractiveness and satisfaction. This objective guide the overall direction of the research. Next is fishbone model. This study used the fishbone model. The fishbone model explains how attitudes are formed based on first, belief about a destination, and second, the evaluation of those beliefs. In this context, visitor satisfaction is influenced by perceptions of first, natural environment, second, archaeological value, third, facilities and services, and fourth, visitor activities. By applying this model, we can better understand how perceptions the satisfaction. Shape the satisfaction. Next, the methodology. This study used a quantitative research design. Key detail is data collected through questionnaire. Total respondents is 252. Sampling method, convenience sampling. Data collected via Google Forms. For the analysis, descriptive statistics were used to summarize the data. Inferential analysis applied using the Fishbone model. This approach ensures systematic and measurable results. Now let's look at the key findings. The overall visitor satisfaction score is 4.23 out of 5.0, which indicated a high level of satisfaction. Visitor perception summary is overall visitor perception is highly positive with strong appreciation across both natural, environmental and archaeological heritage dimensions. The satisfaction score of 4.23 out of 5.0 reflects excellence delivery of visitor experience and successful engagement with the site offerings. This means visitors value both of the natural beauty and historical significance. The site successfully deliver a meaningful experience. Engagement with the destination is strong. However, there are still areas for improvement, especially in infrastructure and accessibility. For fishburne analysis, the strongest factor is natural environment and the landscape. The moderate factor, visitor activities and experience. Weakest factor, facilities and infrastructure. This indicates that the natural and heritage aspects are already strong, but the supporting services need some improvement. Improving weaker factor can significantly enhance overall satisfaction. Based on the findings, several recommendations are proposed. First is for the government, improve infrastructure such as roads and signage, increase funding for heritage conservation. Second, for the management, enhance visitor information and interpretation, use digital platform for promotion. The third one is investment. Develop basic facilities like rest areas and safety features. Create guided tours for better visitor engagement. This improvement can elevate Gua Pelangi into a competitive ecotourism destination. In the conclusion, Gua Pelangi has a strong potential as a leading ecotourism destination in Malaysia. The study shows that visitor satisfaction is already high. Natural and heritage value are key strengths. However, improvement are needed in facilities and management. With a proper planning and strategic development, Gua Pelangi can attract more visitors, enhance visitor experience, and preserve its historical significance. Thank you for your attention. In conclusion,
Thank you so much for the presentation. Miss Aina, are you there?
Hi,
Are you with
yes, I'm here.
Okay, Miss Aina, we do have a questions in our chat box. Okay, I will read out the questions. How can the findings on visitor perception be used to enhance the attractiveness and also the sustainability of Gua Pelangi archaeological site as a tourism destination? Thank you.
Okay, first of all, hello all. Thank you for the questions. Okay, how can the findings on visitor perception can be used to enhance the attractiveness and sustainability of Gua Pelangi archaeological site as a tourism destination? First of all, for the perception, we do ask the visitors themselves about what is their perceptions about the place. So when we have their answers on what they expect, what they want from the place, from the site, from the Gua Pelangi itself, what they want to add, what what are the weakness about the site. So from that we can read and go through one by one and see what is the what we can add on at the site and what we can improve to improve the attractiveness and sustainability of Gua Pelangi. Such as the major one is facilities and the accessibility. Gua Pelangi is located at a rural area which is at the Hutan Paso. So for the accessibility, it is quite rough. We have to go through palm oil plantation about 15 minutes to go into the Gua Pelangi area. So
Oh,
we have to think something to give the visitor who want to go to Gua Pelangi something for more comfortable journey into to go to the Gua Pelangi. That's all. Thank you.
okay. All right, interesting. Do we have any other questions from our audience to our presenter? Okay. All right. So we have now come to the end of our parallel session. And on the behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to thank all the presenters, judges, and participants for your participation and valuable contributions. Now, thank you so much to everyone, and I would like to wish to everyone, thank you very much and have a pleasant day. Thank you so much. We hope to see you again in other conferences. Thank you.
Thank you too.
All right.
Bye.
Okay, is it possible that we take a picture together, a screenshot of our session? If you may, please
Thank you,
switch
Dr.
on your,
Anis.
switch on your video. Okay. Right. How do we do this? Okay. So the others capture. Do I have to change this adjust view so that everyone will be okay? Yeah. This one. Okay. 1 second. Okay. I just want to make sure that everyone is in the frame. Okay. All right. 1, 2, 3. Okay, one more time. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a pleasant day to everybody. Thank you. Hope to see you again. Thank you so much.